Saturday I went to a fabric store to get some white fabric for my sister's jumpsuit, which she asked me to recreate in white for her pre-wedding stuff, and accidentally ended up with a bunch of fabric that I didn't exactly need but I absolutely loved. I went to an outlet store, my favorite Conga Jungle outlet, and I found so much beautiful stuff in just the offcut section. So this orange and green one, they were in, I believe, like curtain offcut sections. I love the fabric. This is very thick, kind of silky looking, obviously synthetic, but I really like it. I'm probably going to be making either a dress or a skirt out of this. This one I actually have more of. I bought two separate offcuts, which can make out a set, so it will probably also be a skirt and a like little crop top set. Those two fabrics are very like soft and silky synthetic silk, and this is sort of like synthetic silk which is matte, so it's not really shiny on any other side. And with this one I am yet to figure out what I want to do, but I'm currently working with that one. As you can see, it's a little transparent, so I'm doing it double and then only working with it. But I started working on the mannequin, and as you can see, I'm working over top of what I already have stretched out for the metal wire bending things. I can't really take it off just because I really like the outcome of that, so I'm just working over top because I felt like taking a little break from that metal wire thing. I'm gonna go back to it on Monday, so I'm just currently working with that random top for myself, and I'm doubling it right away just not to be bothered with all the pleating and crumpling all together. I'm gonna be adding shoulder panels, and I'm gonna have to figure out what the back situation is again. I'm not the best with working with backs for some reason, so we'll have to figure it out, but I really want to keep it more or less naked just because the front is going to be so covered up. Imagine the shoulders are going to be covered, and this is going to be the only like peekaboo section that's going to be visible. So I'm going to go back to it, hopefully going to finish it today. Not really sure what the tying situation is going to be. Probably was thinking about adding a little zipper, but I don't have an invisible zipper in this color, so I might have to kind of end it in the construction section and just leave this opening to the last minute, so we'll see. I'll show you the top. I didn't even bother finishing it to the back portion because it doesn't freaking fit me at all. I keep neglecting the fact that some fabrics are just not meant for structural work, and maybe a more professional seamstress could do that. Luckily, I'm not a seamstress, I'm a fashion designer, and I'm allowed to have mistakes. So I thought I'd show you some of the mistakes so that you wouldn't think that I magically just do everything perfect right away. So look, the idea is there, and because I was working on a mannequin that is not exactly my size and also doesn't have arms so that I could check whether or not it fits around the armpit perfectly, I was not able to actually see how it works. And once I finally tried it on myself, obviously after finishing everything in bias and like trying to finish it nicely from within with this binding as well, not binding but like facing, I noticed that it doesn't fit me that well. I maybe could do the back portion with some sort of lace up detail like I did for a TikTok for my friend's gift, which I'll show you right now, but obviously it would still look a little wonky because the back portion, as you can tell, doesn't close up, so the lacing would probably be very wide, and I don't think that would fit this top at all. The aesthetic would be very different, especially because it's this silky kind of material. But obviously the elephant in the room is the fucking sizing, because I was initially planning on it being underneath the boobs, but because my mannequin has a very different shape than me, and also I kept pinning the fabric to the mannequin instead of pinning the fabric in between itself to see how the fabric would fit, I did not anticipate this result, and obviously it's also choking me a little, so just the perfection. I mean, maybe I'll be able to just cut the pieces out and use this under boob section for something else, and maybe like a halter top, so that there would still be some gathering underneath the boob, and then some sort of like straps or bias binding could go to the back. So this is what stage this is at right now. I'm filming this maybe 3-4 weeks after I actually worked on it because I was a little embarrassed of it and I just didn't want to work with that at all. After that top fiasco, it was time to start working on my sister's jumpsuit. I traced the original piece onto some iron paper which I used for making the pattern. If you also want to learn how to trace your own clothing to make patterns, I'll link a video by With Wendy down in the description. Despite the fact that I'm copying a piece that already fits her well, I'm facing a lot of fit issues with the new jumpsuit. The fabric stretches differently and thus creates some unflattering folds unlike the original. We're gonna work on that, but so far I've had to disassemble the entire piece after finishing it 95% of the way, which is very unfortunate. If you watched my previous vlog, you saw me start working on this dress, bodysuit, whatever, which included a bent out of shape paperclip made out of thick wire. It was such a freaking struggle to work with it because I accidentally got a 5mm wire, which is way too thick, or 4, I actually don't remember, but way too thick wire for me to bend easily. So it was a sweaty workout, but I managed. So I started working on a mannequin with it, just playing around in Photoshop, sketching by hand, just to find the directions that I would be happy with, and I landed on something like this, but at that point I hadn't yet started working on a mannequin in itself and just looked for different Photoshop options. And then I decided to take a bit of a break from working with fabric, and I went back to the atelier to find a few more options. Just haven't started working with them because I'm still stuck on that old thing. I just sketched out a few options of what I'm very interested in working with, and this is my love. Absolutely love it. Just have to finish that previous one first and then I can move on to those. And I don't know if I showed you that before, but I just layered together all of my paper clips made out of metal and took a few photos of them just for potential inspiration as well. Could maybe bend that wire again into shapes like these that I've sketched out in here, or maybe make a print out of that. I don't know yet. In the last process diary, you might recall me cutting myself on the sharp edges of the wire while I was bending it, so it was time to sand off the edges. Luckily, the atelier has an orbital sander and some funny looking safety glasses, which left a very sexy trace of their existence on my face for the next hour. Although it was my first time working with an electrical sander, I'm very pleased with the results. This is the edge before and after. As soon as the edges were smoothed out, I could start working on the top using the final fabric, aka the offcuts from look number 4 leggings and a crop top set. Since I'm trying to unify the collection, I'm reusing the back pattern from that look to add some cohesion. My favorite part is the fact that the fabric was already from a deadstock place and now I'm using the leftovers of it, saving all the tiny scraps to reuse again later. Whenever I use up the last tiniest scrap, I'll definitely document the whole process and finally feel at peace knowing I did everything on my part to avoid waste. My time lapse keeps cutting off pretty fast, but this is what I've been working on for a while. This is the back portion, this is the side. I'm thinking of maybe adding a zipper here, even though this is a stretchy garment, instead of doing a firm crotch clasp, because I usually don't like those, and it will be a lot easier to put this jumpsuit on with this metal piece from the side. So if there is a way for me to insert an invisible zipper into a stretchy garment, I will try to do that. Not sure how beautiful that's going to look, so I'm going to consult the atelier workers because they probably have a better solution for this. But because this metal piece goes from the side, it would make a lot more sense for me to actually make this an opening, as I've been thinking. So the front portion I'm actually quite happy with, and hey to the toys from my childhood on the background, but I do really like it. I feel like it looks pretty interesting. Hopefully it would look on the body a bit better because I would be folding those sides in and it would look a bit more revealing, I guess, and that's sort of what aesthetic I really like generally. So I think this would have to be my favorite area because this whole section is going to be nude. No fabric is going to be here unless I notice that these sections tend to rise up too much, and then I'll probably add some sort of paneling to the side. I do have some fabric left over, so maybe I'll do a bit of a patchworky short situation, pretty much the length of the mannequin in itself. So maybe that's going to be the case, and that could look pretty interesting because that would contradict this very feminine top portion with making a bit more like kind of bike short on the bottom. So that could be cool, huh? I feel like every fashion student quickly becomes a designated family seamstress, fixing everyone's clothes, and in this case making a new belt for my cousin's dress, which he's gonna wear for my sister's wedding. Also, my mom asked to stitch some tension cords for her job randomly, but luckily after 4 years of fashion school I can stitch a rectangle. I finally got around to tracing my favorite pair of linen shorts to remake them because they got so distressed over the years, I absolutely had to. I just continued wearing them even after they got distressed just because they're so beautiful and fit me so well, so it was finally time to remake them, and this time I made them out of the fabric that you saw in the beginning of the video. My fabric that I chose to make this out of is way thicker. I bought it at a fabric desktop place. I gravitated towards it because of the color and the texture. It's a little bit satiny feeling, very soft crushed velvet it feels like, but I might be wrong. But it sits a little different. So it sticks out from my hip straight on, and I don't mind it. I feel like it looks pretty interesting, but the back doesn't fit so well. So there's a little bit of bunching happening. There is something to be improved. I could kind of take it in for it to sit a little bit better. But to be honest, I just can't be bothered anymore. The fabric of those shorts is a very soft, very gentle linen. And the fact that those shorts at 20 years old might be playing into their softness because they are definitely worn out. They are broken in. Not that you have to rake in linen, but I'm just saying that the fact that they're soft, the fact that they're a little bit sheer, might be coming from them being worn so often, especially by me. And I love them to death because you can see the signs of wearing this thing. I'll show you. A few stains, not sure if you can see them, but they're a little faint and it was impossible to get them out of this fabric, which is very unfortunate because I absolutely love those shorts. Also, there is some tearing happening right at the seam in here in the front where there is a little bit of skirt opening because those shorts, yeah, actually have an overlay over skirt like I showed you before. And yes, this could be taking in. Yes, I could just stitch them or open the seam and kind of narrow this down a little bit because there is a wide gap happening, so I could still walk on this. But this isn't the main issue. The main issue is the side seam that has just burst open. I haven't had that much time to work on my jewelry collection recently because I was hired as a freelancer to work for a Moscow-based fashion designer. I'm helping her with design development, technical illustration, 3D modeling and pattern cutting, trying to make it as low waste as possible. That's a bit of a challenge. So for that reason, I haven't really been working on my collection in itself, but I do have a little bit of downtime while my project is rendering in Clo 3D. This is the first sample I'm making and I'm trying to make a really good render so that she sees actual textures of the fabric and all that, because she's planning on using some of that stuff for the social media of the brand. So I should try and make it as beautiful as possible. So hopefully that's going to work out with my MacBook. Also, because I'm working on a MacBook which doesn't really have a really good video based card on the computer, it's not going to render everything as crisp and beautifully and detailed as, let's say, like a very heavy duty gaming computer would probably do. It's doing its best. Hopefully that's going to be enough, but I probably have a few more minutes of rendering my first sample so that I could work a little bit on the mannequin that I've been showing you this whole time. I've been showing you this entire video, but so far the only progress I've made is I created those panels and I'm quite satisfied with them, I would say. The only thing I'm not the most happy with is the fact that with me stretching the fabric over those metal lines, you won't see the actual metal. And the only area where this metal paperclip is going to be peeking through would be this section and this section. And that's if I leave this section open at all. So I was thinking, because this part is gathered and I'm going to be finishing it, probably like folding it down, either inserting elastic for it to keep some stretchiness factor, or just folding it down and finishing on a flat felt sewing machine. There is a high chance of a person sitting down and this gaping. So I'm probably going to have to insert like some sort of thin paneling in here, maybe it just going a few centimeters below this line and kind of maybe stretching out to this area. So maybe even this section is going to be covered, which is highly likely, to be honest. So this would be the only open section and I'm not really sure how that's going to look. Maybe that's going to look awkward because all of the sections are covered and I'm going to be ending up covering this whole thing up with fabric as well so that it would look a bit more cohesive. I'm not really super excited about that because I really wanted to expose some metal. So perhaps maybe I could open this section up and leave some metal open, maybe open this section up and leave some metal open. I don't know. Decisions to be made, but so far I'm just trying to take it off the mannequin to go to the flat felt sewing machine without actually sewing around the metal, so I could just take it whole thing off. There's a lot of basting to be done to connect all the sections together and be finished nicely, so this is what I'm going to be doing while the whole thing is rendering. Oh, also, I chopped half my hair off.